first European team for the 6th Invitational, it was actually looking after the last major that G2 was finding themselves in a good position to confirm themselves halfway through the stage as well. Because back then we said all they need is 8th or 7th locked in.
And then it's good.
And then they have enough points. But if you look at the right tops of your screen, it is currently 8th place. They're not doing too well.
Yeah, it is bad.
Yeah, it's not good. That's some would say it's devastating, as Alamat just put out.
And you're looking at 3 of the top 4 today pulling 3 points. 4 of the top 5 today pulling 3 points.
Yeah, I don't think G2 is going to be making it to the major anymore.
Well, both of them are on 7, so it's the fact that they're sort of slugging out right now. You know, every team the G2 might face, if they win today, it slightly changes in that outsiders wouldn't be above them, but currently every team ahead of them is still above them. Same with Navi. It's not an easy route for teams that have already made more of a claim staked.
No, it is not going to be an easy route for either of these two teams to make it to the major. Luckily, G2 has the 6th Invitational to look forward to if they do manage to put up at least a bit of a performance this stage. And again, it was mentioned before by Fresh, like 3 out of the 4 next games are supposedly winnable for G2. Let's say they get 2, they will be going to SI. They have a bit of a break right before that, can prepare themselves truly find out what the issue has been in the team, because they got together. Their goal long-term was to make it to a major. They instantly did that. They did it. They did it the second time around. They are the only team together with Exit that reached both majors and both quarterfinals at the time. Now, Exit has been knocked out. It's not going to be a major.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. G2 still technically can, but it's looking unlikely, like they'll go for a 3rd one. But yeah, who knows? Maybe Miracle runs are their hobbies.
5 seconds to insertion.
You wouldn't want it as a hobby.
No. The fans won't want that either. It's not good for their hearts.
No, it's not good.
Must be very stressful.
Okay. Navi, your performance most recently was missing quite a lot of bits. Skitty was outstanding. Skitty was unbelievable in the previous showdown.
Yeah.
But, unfortunately, it was on the back of rounds, just not really being cemented against what was kind of a solid swing round from MNM. This game, I want to see what the reset's been over the past week, because we know what you could be capable of, and it's been a bit of up and down. And this is another game where you're sort of, again, a team that can be along the lines of G2. The fight here starts in Skitty. Currently hanging around just on long desk. There's drones, there's pressure, and there's Doki. Hey, Fresh, remember that comparison you're making on the desk? Well, there's the first, and there's the second. Teb also picked up by Blur.
And that was probably just a good drone coming out from G2, realizing where he was rotating through. From Pre-Fire coming through, finding out that kill as well. Nate now playing from below. There's a bit of an opening made by an explosive. Wanted to look through, but is aware of the fact that he still has that nitro in pocket. Wants to use it well. Do not let it go to waste. Just get curious to see no one and Navi actually on the actual site. All of them are seemingly off for it for now. Springs are coming through to know exactly where he is and hoping to chase him down as well. Oh, there he goes. From the top down. Leader will find Doki though, so that's at least a response for Navi.
Yeah, they find one. They sort of stop this onslaught, but you're still looking at this basement site, and you're looking at Kayak trying to get a bit of a bite before he drops down. He's hoping he goes unchecked, but look at the outline in the top left. G2 is checking. They're droning. They're getting themselves set up. Unfortunately, the wrong way in the wrong place.
Oh!
That was almost a little bit dangerous there. There's the pings on the next player. Alamau gets knifed. The first one we've seen in a while. The second. Oh, there's the kick. Cold Kayak finds 2. Looks for the third. And Kayak has suddenly dragged this round back round. Citizen, all that's left. I mean, it's a sentence that any team would generally like to have if you are the team that has 1 player left. But still, from what was a solid lockdown with the pings and the intel and a lot of confidence of a player against the roster he was on once upon a time. The triple, including the opening knife, has been his. The fourth, it's his as well. Kayak takes the round.
Kayak, who went from G2 to Navi, up against all 3 of the ex-Navi players, locks them down right there. And that first one, that first engagement, Emmy, where he tried to sneak, hoped to catch a bit more than he potentially could have. The turnaround, that must have been like, heartbeat instantly to like 900. Presses the knife button just in range. But that could, like, if if that knife was out of reach, that would have been 4v1 after that. Yeah, here we go again.
Oh my God.
So he wants to play this sneaky, trigger discipline. It's important. And then turns around, Elamau heard something.
Yeah.
And then the lack of information, not able to lock out Kayak. They had no clue where he'd gone. And they're just one step behind every single time. Kayak instantly able to respond, pre-fire when necessary.
I mean, I'm curious where the intel was coming from because they had a direct ping on the player on the top of the stairs.
Yeah.
You hope it's not the default cam. I would have to, you'd have to sort of go back and watch it. They knew by the looks of it that the player was coming around on blue, or they just expected that rotation. There wasn't a direct ping onto that, but you could see the way he'd sort of stepped up and in. He was going for a fight on that exact sort of meter and caught the player as soon as they rounded the stairs. Either way, fantastically played by Kayak. Hey, remember at the start of the round when I sort of said the rounds that Navi took in their previous showdown were big clutch rounds?
Well, yeah, that's one of them.
It's one of them. You hope for some stability here, Navi. I don't want to be the sort of bearer of bad news, but there were these massive, impressive plays in the previous game, and Navi knows this more than anybody else, that they have to try and build this structure with the new roster, and here, off the back of that, find that thread that they can tie together here.
And it's kind of what we saw, right? With Blur, Saves, Doki leaving Navi, going to other teams. It was like, what is really left of the old Navi now? It's basically a completely new team that needs to find themselves some pace. And as Fresh said, they might have won the transfer window with some of the moves they have made, but they're all relatively inexperienced players that need to get the experience on tier 1 level. And they're slowly starting to get to that here. As they're up against G2, Doki needs to be very careful for this repellent. A missed opportunity there, Tab.
Yeah, that was unfortunate from the side of Tab. If it's stuck on the Vector, that would have potentially been a kill. Sometimes siege timing pulls away from you, and he pulled that out a little bit too late. Doki with the pre-fire, but they take the drop onto Janitors. There is obviously still that player inside stock. It's Nave. He has the hatch to drop as well if he wants to, if he feels he can take that decision. The bit of pace, it's still a steady idea of getting this drone intel, the control of the players around. You can see there's some caution being paid towards the approach here onto open, but Nafe is still unchecked.
Now, there was some devastation on the G2 side after Twitch was banned, and you can see it now playing, of course, with those mirror windows towards the top of square. This forces G2 to find a different way in, and that will be either by hatch drops or by pushing down the elevator hallway. As the top of square, well, that is going to be locked off for now, so they need to try and find a way through on either of these two approaches, and maybe even both, as, well, Nave might just find Alamar for free as he just sprints past.
I mean, again, trigger discipline might be something. There is a ping.
Yeah, that's the hatch, though.
And there it is. And there's the reveal. There's one. There's two. Alamau has twice been caught by an unknown entity. Somebody is underneath this hatch. Does get the catch there. Virtue was there, but so was Leader. And they were all over the map, ready to strike Nafe with that early one. And then from the back of that, two players left, Doki and Citizen 2, that made a name in an RV roster once upon a time. Leader gets caught out by an explosion around the corner. The second should get the lock-in, but they also get him right on the mirror. As you said, it's going to be something that pops up with the Twitch ban. Popped right back down. Navi, 2 rounds in a row.
And I'm going to be very harsh here, but this is literally just mistake on mistake on mistake that G2 makes. They don't drone out the full top floor. They lose 2 players to a player, to Oryx, who has been hiding in stock the entire round. They don't respond in time, but eventually manage to get the kill as the hatch comes through and then get caught sprinting into the next player. Then you just walk right in front of a mirror window, which is still being manned by one of the Navi players. It's like they didn't even try to win that round anymore after they lost the first 2 players. But, you know, that aside, well done by Nave. He had that trigger discipline. He waited and waited until the time was right, drops out just in time, and puts Navi into that giant leapfrog of a lead in the round. And all they had to do was close it out from there. They did that well. And, you know, how we talked about MNM when they won it based off clutches the majority of the time. We had a clutch the first round. This one was G2 making mistakes and Navi locking off and capitalizing off them.
That was it. That was Navi being in the right place, the sort of balance and cool. If you want to talk about experience, obviously Nafe is one of the names that has a lot of that from this roster. And demonstrated there, just sort of held on, got the strike onto the first. I think at that point he was thinking, well, it's about a minute left, I'm going to take the rotate anyway. You know, it's Oryx, you can play yourself all the way down to the bottom, which he then tried to do. Virtue was there to go for the catch. Virtue in that position, you know, it's a good place to play. I guess that's that sort of counterbalance. But as he said, G2, they're making a few slightly slippy mistakes here. They're sort of giving a little bit too much, I think, to Navi, and they've got to make sure that they can try and rein that back in sooner rather than later. Cams all the way across here on the lobby side. There's the little sneaky Valkyrie cam and the idea of Kayak maybe trying to find a fight and somebody going in through the door, but it's watched from far, far away.
I mean, you can say that, but I think it's the second time that G2's actually suffered from misinformation. I think they expected it to be clear. Maybe they just, you know, put in a drone, they checked the room roughly, but not the corners, and that's how they've been losing out twice so far. So they really need to get on point here with their droning game, because otherwise they can continue losing out on these kind of situations. As it's 2-0 right now, well, they've opened up onto Kanto, they're opening up a long angle, but they need to find these entries yet again.
Well, the pressure's going to start coming now over onto the side of Square. Now that Kanto's open, you can see, and we've talked about this site being one where it's quite a wide take. You have to sort of have a presence on the windows on the far end. They're going to see if they can try and force the players out. The one in Janitors, it's going to make things very tricky. So instead, the rotate comes all the way from underneath. Down in the garage. Citizen might try and fight and bite his way up right underneath the site. There's a single player, I believe, currently there maybe. Still holding onto the position in the lockdown. It's Nath that sort of has that C4 waiting and watching. They might see if they can try and isolate at least one engagement.
I mean, they know where two of these players are on the G2 side, but they just need to find themselves an opening first before they can really work towards those players. And as Citizen is approaching the bottom of Square right now, have they droned out Nath? I believe they have, as LMI is currently watching him. That should be a free kill for Citizen here. As he pings on through, it is going to be the bleepers that go off. His position has been given out as he deals the first scrap of damage.
Blinds come through, the Candelas, and Doki's inside the site. Doki's putting the pressure in, and Doki gets caught out by Teb. That happened inside the site. Skiddy is at least able to get the flank round, and Blood does get one off the back of it, but suddenly they found themselves losing a bit of presence. Virtue and Blur trying to force their way up on the one side. They still have Alamau on the windows itself. He's sort of breaking and battering down some pressure to the elevators. Is going to turn into the next engagement. Kayak, he's ready and waiting, catches the drone, hopes to catch a player on the back of it. Could take a drop, but it might be watched. There's Nath offering some support. Blur suffers as he wants to swing his round up the stairs, but you're looking at 20 seconds, and they're still trying to find a route through onto the floor, let alone the site itself. Alamau's off the window. The two remaining players goes down to none. Navi have a third round.
Don't know what to say on G2's behalf right here, but Navi are playing this perfectly well. They're reading into the weaknesses of G2. For example, Citizen comes up the blue stairs, gives his position away on the beepers.
Alamau had the hot drone. They knew exactly where the player underneath was. The beepers was the call to arms and the swing. It happened. Yeah, split second afterwards, the beepers actually popped in. Whoops.
Navi, we've just been praising you.
Navi.
Luckily, you do have the Kona stations.
Yeah, I was going to say, the Salvation station's good to work here, but to be honest,
it's painful to see a round start that way. Luckily, yes, the Thunderbird. Otherwise, this would have been basically a free kill to G2 already if you look at the amount of HP that's lost. Just by a single impact. And that was to create that rotation. Well, they have that rotation now, after they use the second. But they're able to heal themselves back up. I believe it's
5 seconds left before insertion.
actually only one activated on Leader there, I believe.
Attackers are
But Leader and Tap needing to make some visits to the Salvation stations in a bit to find themselves back in full HP, and in that case, there would be no harm done.
Okay, as I was saying about G2,
Yes.
You know, the swing then came around. The support for that player came from the side of Navi. They dropped the hit open. They were able to get the swing round onto the door of Kitchen itself. You know, and then at that point, you've got Doki trying to do bits inside the site, trying to be that lead-in that Fresh talked about, and trying to be that entry statistic on a positive light. Couldn't quite get the back of the Candelas, and then when he goes down, Alamau's still on the windows. The Virtue and Blur were still inside lobby. This, we might see.
Kill.
Yeah, the Pulse, he's watching and waiting.
I mean, there's definitely going to be a entry up on the top floor, at least when they clear out Tab, or when they force out Tab. That's when they will start to try and enter. Doki will find out with a grenade kill, and that was just the entry he was talking about. That will allow them to try and get up onto that top floor now to work some verticality. But that C4 might catch them off as they do.
Seeing attention paid to stock. Hey, remember all the times we've seen these tucked-in players go wrong? Well, there's one caught off. Skitty finds Alamau. I'm not sure if he was just sort of ahead of the pack there, ahead of the drone, but...
Not drone again.
Yeah, it might be the engagement that pulls itself away. They're still waiting for this approach. They don't quite have the confidence to go through. Blur finally takes the swing, and Leader doesn't have that as the reaction. It's able to slip by.
Just the light there, didn't have the sound cue. That is why it was checking on the cardiac sensor, and you're a bit too slow then if you see him in there. Hope that he chooses the right way out, which wasn't the case this time. A lot of verticality being created though by Virtue using the Buck Skeleton key to open up some floorings towards the actual site. This is what we discussed last game. The entire top floor is going to be soft. The entire top floor can be used to get angles, and that is what is making it so difficult to defend. As G2 is opening that up slightly, they're opening and eyeing up the teller's office as well. But for that, they do need to take control of the elevator and the elevator hallway. They think it's clear because of the grenade that just popped inside, but Nath didn't take a single point of damage there.
Nath, he's tucked in on the corner. There's the fight. It goes Doki's way, though. He's doing his best to keep driving into the gun game that this game requires. 30 seconds. They've got the breakthrough onto the site. The eyes are inside as well. It's a bit of a tricky one here to break it through, but Leader does find a bite back. Blur, he's flirting with the idea of a plant. He has Citizen offering all the support and the cover. Do they have an idea? Navi aren't quite reacting to it, but Virtue is caught out on the drop of the hatch. He pulled the attention away. Forced them into the 3 versus 2. They're going to see if they can maybe try and get a rotate here. They're tucked around either side of the door for now. I think it's a little bit too risky to go out, so instead keep it level behind and ready to serve on the side here. The first fight. Oh, it's a freebie for Leader. Swung around on the other side. Citizen, he's looking for revenge. He does not find it. And you can see the joy on Nathan there as it's now 4 in a row. All 4 sites covered, locked, and loaded by Navi.
Skitty already jumped up to the top floor with the Arc's ability as well, so they had verticality going for them. They had angles from two horizontal sides at the very same time. And with that, well, G2, you know, they tried to hold those angles, but it didn't work out in the end. Especially when the first one gets picked up from lobby, you're finding yourself in a 1v3 facing literally 3 different sites to be attacked from. As we're having a little bit of a quick pause.
Little pause.
Cheeky disconnect that needs to be resolved, and it's back on the way again.
All right, 4 in a row for Navi. As I said, all 4 sites, they've done it. They've collected all the sort of badges, the tokens.
Yeah, they've completed bank.
So now they're going to see if they can achieve and hunt and double it down for that missing one. The perfect half so far. G2, they've had their attack timeout, and they still, unfortunately, missing a little bit with the connection of their opponents. Kayak, he's pulled a reverse James Bond, post the memes.
I mean, we have to say, back in the top 4, Alamau, again, being caught off, then the drop down comes through. It keeps on happening. It just, every single time one of the G2 players dies, due to a lack of information. Like, the droning game is not working out for them.
5 seconds to go.
And I don't know if that's due to either them being complacent or Navi slotting back into the positions after they have been droned out, just slipping through the gaps.
I mean, look at this
time and
roster.
time again.
It's the Monty, it's a Gridlock, and a Nomad. They're playing a game where they're going to sort of say, we're taking control of what we're going to take control of, and we're going to lock it up in a sort of very solid play here. It's rare you see the Gridlock. It's even rarer you see a Gridlock and a Nomad in a combination. Even Nomad's dropped off in the current meta, and this is the sole purpose. The Valcam's going to give some idea.
I think they've made a mistake, though, Emmy.
Yes.
There's no hard breach. Normally you would be able to carry it. Oh, luckily, okay, it's soft. I was going to say, like, it's going to be quite difficult for them to get through this way. If you want to be using that to shield for a bit of a turtle setup, trying to get that plant down. But it is left soft, so they can open it up with Virtue right away. So, pardon me, wasn't a mistake.
Well, Monty's now inside, and the start of the control and the rotations is coming through the track stingers. If you don't see Gridlock much, well, this is what they do. They can sort of limit the movement. You can break them. It costs a bit of noise. You can try and crawl through them. It hurts you and costs a bit of noise.
The air jabs were also going off on the top as well. I've seen enough that you don't really need to explain the play against that, and they've got a lockdown. And they've got themselves here inside server with the kit. Are they going to go for a bit of a reverse plant here with the Monty? There is the pings on the player above the hatch itself. You can see they're still getting that intel as best as they can. And what are you looking at in the pockets? Well, Citizen getting his first for the game. Dropped the hatch, took the fight, and the plant is pushed away by the smoke canister. The first goes off. And some of the stuns over the cover here of Kayak. He has the C4 in pocket as well. They're sort of waiting at this moment in time with Leader on the back end of the shield.
G2 trying to play this from multiple different angles whilst taking out the danger that is coming in from the hatches. Blur is looking to waste some utility as he's attempting to plant every now and then. Second smoke canister about to be tossed out as the plant is attempted. Will land on place as well. Chips out a little bit more, and again the cancel comes through. But this will run out at some point. There's only one more smoke canister left, currently in the hands of Leader, and there's 2 more nitros to be used. As Skitty is retaking that top floor, he's hoping to make sure none of these hatches can be used against him, but he has been spotted out.
Yeah, Skitty caught there on the drone, and obviously we saw the work going on to limit the rotations he can make. His options are quite thin, so instead he's going to have to try and find a reverse route. There's Doki going down, there's the plant. Leader finds Doki, that C4 finds nothing, but Nate is able to move up and get some revenge. Citizen does find one, that C4 also finds nothing.
Stick to.
There's Alamau, he swings around, gets one. Kayak cannot quite get the connection with the fight as Alamau pushes deeper, forces them into an impossible situation. Leader does find Blur, that's the kick cold, and you're looking at 10 seconds now as Leader. He's on the rotate round. He's able to find the top control here. Leader with the retake over the verticality. They've got to pick up sticks and head to the other site right now. They've lost control of it, but Leader with a quad kill puts them in the dust. And it is 5 in a row for Navi.
Okay, so let's just recap that round, Emmy. Whilst the half of G2 is taking care of a roamer and like control of that top floor, the other half is making sure utility gets wasted. They've done that well. All of it is gone. They execute onto the site. They almost have full site control. But Leader snuck himself back up to the top floor. Finds one. Plays ring around the rosy with the second. Finds that kill as well as he goes for a quad kill. Leaving only one G2 player alive in the end right there. And they do not get the connection. G2 is being played right now in any way possible. Either the information is missing, the timing is off in that last round. Like, they've done it well. They've locked off whatever was important for them. The square was not going to be used by any of the defenders, but the other hatches were, as the retake came through. And this must just hurt them because, again, G2 did make so much happen. They had the man advantage. It was a 4v2. They had the side almost under control. They just missed Leader going back up to the top floor again. Maybe a bit too much utility placed onto the square area rather than also spreading it out towards the main stairs area.
Navi, 5 rounds. G2 attack timeout has been utilized. They're on their attack of bank. They need one. They need something here. That round, it should have been theirs. They did so much right. They had everything you could pretty much possibly bring to limit a flank. And yes,
they get flanked.
They get flanked with a massive man advantage. The pings and the hot droning on one of the flankers, they just forgot about the second. What can they do here? Their last chance, their last swing. And the first goes against them. Caught out there, the Amru wanted to do something a bit of a blind side.
Well.
Leader's able to find Alamau there. It's 2 that are against them. Doki at least gets Leader on the far end. The swing around onto the site itself. You can see Citizen is trying to ping out. Pluck a player from the far end. Cannot quite get the connection with the back of open though.
All right, so G2 lost those first 2 engagements. They hope to get up the hatch with Blur and potentially put a diffuser down on the ground, but that diffuser is now cold in the basement as well and needs to be recovered. 1:30 on the clock. G2 players up at the top floor, still trying to make a dent into the first as Navi is realizing what they're currently up against and they're starting to drop back towards the side, maybe even further than that, and looking to take control of that diffuser.
The pings onto the player on the quad wall. There's 2 of them. One tucked right on the close corner there for the swing on anyone that pulls the fight. They're trying to get a bit of width. They're trying to get a lucky breath.
They're a little bit too low to actually catch one of them there, who did try and swing into a fight. That's unfortunate siege timing. Oh, there's 3 of them in a box, and a C4 plucks one of them out of it. The kid is still 2 stories below. Doki, he's desperately trying to find a spot of safety or a semblance of a fight that he can try and win, but look at that, the far end. They've rotated into the box. They have the reveal at least on that, but Doki cannot quite cement the kill. They're tucked now. They might just run out, and they do. They're rotating around. Virtue finds Nath in the meantime. There's a spray back. Virtue has now gone down. Teb gets the lockdown with the secondary. They're looking for one more at this point. They don't find it. And with a flawless half, if this was an in-flight movie, I think G2 fans would be walking out.
This is quite literally, I think, the worst ever half I've seen G2 play. And I know we've seen a lot of bad games from G2 over the past couple of stages, but whew, I just don't know what to say. I don't have any criticism anymore for them that I haven't already given to them. Everything is just going wrong. Nothing is connecting. They try, like in that last round, they try to go for some solo swings. They send Alamau up through the basement on the hope for the main stairs to see if he can find someone rotating. They send Blur down below on the hatch to see if he can maybe find a kill like we've seen in the previous game we've seen. And then go up at the diffuser, go for a massive execute. But you lose both those engagements on that first try, on the first couple of seconds. I don't know what to say. Navi is just completely picking apart every single move that G2's making here. They are playing this perfectly, and G2 is playing this terrible so far. And I've mentioned my reasons. I'm not going to be mentioning them again unless they pop up, but it is painful to watch, this is.
You know, when we came into the studio today,
yes,
Demo said, I'm really irritated that you guys get
I really wanted to cast a Navi G2 game.
I really wanted to cast a Navi G2 game.
Just Navi T-Hun this is.
I mean, it's a game of 2 halves. We've seen comebacks before. Maybe I'm being an optimist in the situation, but what else can you be at this point in time? G2 have everything to do ahead of them, and Navi have been in such a good balance of control. Doki isn't going to risk it. He knows the lockdown's been sharp, and he's instead going to get some backup and support here inside open. They have the player at the top of blue. They've got themselves a bit of a route round here. They're going to see if they can try and get the first scrap and scrape of Navi. Navi just have to be successful once for them to lock this out, take 3 points, and really probably put a pin in G2's hopes of getting to the major.
You know, and this is also not like it's release Villa or release Theme Park where it would be common to see 5 or 6 defensive rounds in a row without question. No, this is bank. This is way more even on the board. Usually like a 3-3 or maybe even a 4-2 for the attackers is what we're aiming towards. C4 will start off strong though. Alamau will find an entry onto Tab. That is going to be at least a little bit of a help here for G2 to at least chase some rounds home. So who knows, maybe round differential at the end of the stage might make a difference whether or not you are qualified for SI or not.
Bit of a scratch, bit of a scrape, and the first body is theirs. It's not the most common sentence we've been able to say about G2 here, but what can they build behind it? That is the main point of this. There is still always a chance. That's the joy of a game like Siege. Is the economy that you bring into this is more of a stress and a momentum and emotional thing more than anything else. Every round is winnable. Not that you should be giving a speech, but again, you just got to try and hold hope if you're a G2 fan at this point. Navi, I mean, it's been cruise control throughout this game. We talked about the importance of a player like Skiddy, but the fact that Kayak still hasn't died in this game this far in.
I'm hoping to take up the hand of Nath there, but is unable to successfully do so. The hatch, however, in control of Navi. The diffuser on top of this hatch, so they need to find themselves a way in safely, and that might come due to some distractions elsewhere. Flashbangs coming in from the vault. Leader will go for a drop if he finds a kill here. Certainly some of the guns of G2 are starting to aim his direction as Nate finds himself inside. He's going for the plant.
He's going for the plant. The fight goes into the way of Leader on the back end. Who's going to stop this one? Nobody apparently. He's tucked around on the back of the bomb. He's able to get a scrape onto Alamau, but they do take out Leader on the back end. Kayak gets one over the shoulder. Kayak gets one more over
over the shoulder, all down to Doki. He's been able to bite and get into a fight a few times. The man is tucked and lying behind the desk. Do they know? Oh, he's scraped and scratched from the door, but he doesn't find it. A 7-0 for the guns of Navi. And it's been a devastating day for G2 today.
Kayak went 10-0 there, by the way. Locked it off with a final 3 casual kills.
He cannot die.
He cannot die.
He cannot die.
The man is unstoppable.
What is going to be his rating for this game?
That might just be the highest ever rating we've ever seen.